My name is Evelyn Hartley, a nurse who was disowned by her own family for daring to keep a child they called a stain on their legacy. For 9 years, I stayed silent. But at my sister's grand wedding, I stood up, looked them straight in the eyes, and said, "You know what? I left to protect my son from the very people who claimed to be his family. But today I'm back, not to beg, but to expose the truth you buried for 9 years." What happened next? You won't believe. Before I share my full story, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. Hit like and subscribe if you've ever had to rise above family betrayal. Trust me, you'll want to hear what happened next. The envelope arrived on a Tuesday, crisp and cream-colored against the pile of overdue bills on my kitchen counter. I almost threw it away. Fancy mail rarely meant good news in my world. But the return address made my hands freeze. The Hartley Estate, Charleston. I hadn't heard from my family in 9 years. My fingers trembled as I tore it open. Noah's breakfast cereal going soggy in his bowl while he watched me with those curious brown eyes that reminded me so much of... No. I pushed that thought away like I always did. "What is it, Mom?" Noah asked, milk dripping from his spoon. "It's..." I stared at the elegant script, the embossed roses, the names that felt like ghosts. "Your Aunt Allison is getting married." "I have an aunt?" His face lit up. "Can we go? Please, Mom. I've never been to a wedding." The invitation felt heavier than it should have. "Allison Hartley requests the honor of your presence." But it wasn't my name on the line below. It said Emily Hartley and guest. Emily. They couldn't even get my name right. I set the invitation down and wiped Noah's chin with a napkin, buying time. 9 years since Dad told me I was no longer welcome. 9 years since Donna, my stepmother, called me a stain on the Hartley reputation. 9 years of double shifts at Charleston General, coming home to a 2-bedroom apartment with water stains on the ceiling and neighbors who fought through paper-thin walls. "Mom," Noah's voice pulled me back. "Can we go?" I looked at my son, my beautiful, brilliant boy who did his homework by lamplight when the overhead bulb burned out, and I couldn't afford a replacement until payday. He'd never met his grandfather, never seen the house where I grew up, never known what it felt like to belong to something bigger than our tiny, broken family of 2. "Maybe," I heard myself say. "Let me think about it." But I'd already decided. Not for me. God knows I'd rather walk across hot coals than face them again. But Noah deserved to know where he came from, even if that place had rejected us both before he was even born. That night, after Noah was asleep, I sat on our threadbare couch and studied the invitation again. Allison was marrying Lucas Whitmore. Of course she was. The Whitmores owned half of Charleston's waterfront. Their son would be perfect for the Hartley family image. Everything I'd failed to maintain when I'd gotten pregnant at 27 by a man who'd vanished the moment the test showed positive. I touched the raised letters, remembering Allison at 17, crying in my room because Donna had criticized her posture at dinner. "Why can't I be perfect like you, Evie?" she'd asked. Perfect. If only she knew how imperfect I'd become in their eyes. The next morning, I called in a favor with Maria, my shift supervisor, and got the weekend of the wedding off. Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I went shopping for a dress that didn't come from a thrift store. The price tag made me nauseous, but I'd skip lunches for a month if it meant not giving Donna the satisfaction of seeing me in something shabby. Noah bounced beside me in the department store, his excitement infectious. "Do I get to wear a tie? Like a real gentleman?" "Like the finest gentleman in Charleston," I promised, smoothing his dark hair. I found a navy dress on clearance, simple but elegant. Nothing like what Allison would wear, or what the other guests would sport, but it would do. I caught my reflection in the dressing room mirror. 36 years old, shadows under my eyes from too many night shifts, hands rough from constant sanitizer. When had I become this worn-down version of myself? "You look beautiful, Mom," Noah said through the curtain. I smiled at his voice, even as tears pricked my eyes. "Thank you, baby." As we drove home with our purchases, Noah chattered about meeting his family, about seeing a real wedding, about whether there would be cake. Each word was a small knife in my chest. He had no idea what we were walking into. The cold shoulders, the whispered judgments, the careful cruelty of people who'd perfected the art of exclusion. But maybe I was wrong. Maybe 9 years had changed them. Maybe they'd sent the invitation because they wanted to bridge the gap, to welcome us back. I glanced at the invitation on my dashboard. Emily Hartley. No, they hadn't changed at all. The Whitmore estate sprawled before us like something from a movie, all white columns and manicured gardens. Noah's face was pressed against the car window, his breath fogging the glass. "Mom, it's a castle!" "It's just a house," I said, but my hands gripped the steering wheel tighter. Just a house with valet parking and guests in designer clothes and a string quartet playing on the lawn. We were 20 minutes late. I'd circled the block 3 times, fighting the urge to turn around. But Noah had already seen the balloon arch, the twinkling lights, the promise of magic I couldn't give him in our everyday life. The valet looked at my 10-year-old Honda with barely concealed disdain. I lifted my chin and handed him the keys like I belonged here. "Fake it, Evelyn," for Noah. Inside, the foyer took my breath away. Crystal chandeliers cast rainbow patterns on marble floors. Flowers cascaded from every surface, orchids and roses and things I couldn't name, arrangements that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Guests mingled with champagne flutes, their laughter tinkling like the crystals above. "Evelyn?" A voice like honey over broken glass. "My goodness, you actually came." Donna stood before me in pale pink silk, her smile sharp as ever. She'd had work done. Her face seemed frozen in an expression of perpetual mild surprise. Her gaze swept over my clearance rack dress and Noah's clip-on tie before settling on my face with practiced disappointment. "Hello, Donna." I kept my voice steady. "Thank you for the invitation." "Of course, dear. Family is family, after all." She leaned in for an air kiss that never quite touched my cheek. "Though I must say we weren't entirely sure you'd received it. The address we had was quite old. Because you never bothered to update it, I thought but didn't say. And this must be..." She looked at Noah like she'd forgotten his existence entirely. "Noah," I supplied. "My son." "Yes, how tall he's gotten." She signaled a waiter. "The children's table is in the annex. I'm sure he'll be more comfortable there with the other little ones." "I want to stay with my mom," Noah said, pressing closer to my side. Donna's smile tightened. "How sweet. Well, the seating arrangements are already set, you understand." She glided away before I could respond, leaving us standing in the foyer like uninvited guests, which I realized with growing dread we might actually be. We found our table after asking 3 different servers. It was exactly where I'd expected, in the back corner, partially hidden behind a potted palm, so close to the restroom that we could hear every flush. The other seats were empty. "Are we early?" Noah asked, fidgeting with his tie. "Just fashionably on time," I lied. The ceremony was beautiful. Of course it was. Allison floated down the aisle in a dress that probably cost more than I made in a year, her smile radiant as she approached Lucas at the altar. He was handsome in that prep school way. Sandy hair, straight teeth, the kind of jawline that came from good genes and better nutrition. But when the officiant asked if anyone objected, Lucas's eyes swept the crowd and landed on our corner. His brow furrowed slightly, like he was trying to place me. The moment passed, and he turned back to Allison, but something about his expression nagged at me. During the reception, Noah and I sat at our Exile table, watching the party happen around us but never quite including us. Whenever I tried to approach someone I'd known before, cousins, family friends, they suddenly needed to refresh their drinks or find the restroom. "Why isn't anyone talking to us?" Noah asked after the 5th person walked away mid-conversation. I straightened his tie, searching for words that wouldn't break his heart. "Sometimes adults are complicated, baby. It's not about you." "Is it about you?" The question hung between us. "Yes," I wanted to say. "It's about me and my choices, and their shame, and 1,000 other things you're too young to understand." "Look," I said instead, "they're about to cut the cake." But even the cake cutting felt wrong. Lucas's hand shook slightly as he guided the knife with Allison. When their eyes met, something passed between them. Not love, exactly. Something more like resignation. That's when I noticed the Whitmores at the head table. Lucas's parents sat rigid as statues, their smiles never quite reaching their eyes. This wasn't just a wedding. It was a business merger wrapped in white silk and baby's breath. The clinking of silverware against crystal brought the room to attention. My father stood at the head table, his silver hair catching the light. He hadn't looked at me once all evening. "Friends? Family?" he began, his voice carrying that authority that used to make me feel safe. "Today we celebrate not just the union of two young people, but the joining of two great Charleston families." I tuned out his speech, focusing instead on cutting Noah's chicken into smaller pieces. He was trying so hard to use the right fork, to sit up straight, to be the perfect gentleman he thought they wanted him to be. More toasts followed. Lucas's father spoke about legacy and responsibility. Donna dabbed at her eyes with a handkerchief, though I doubted any actual tears fell. Friends told stories about Allison's charity work, her modeling career, her perfect everything. Then Allison stood, microphone in hand, her smile bright as her diamonds. "I want to thank everyone for being here," she said, her voice sweet as poisoned honey, "especially those who traveled far or overcame obstacles to attend." Her eyes found mine across the room. My stomach dropped. "Family is so important," she continued, "which is why I'm particularly touched that my half-sister Evelyn could join us today." The spotlight swung to our corner, blinding me. "Everyone, please give a warm welcome to Evelyn. She's had such a challenging few years. Single motherhood isn't easy, especially when you're doing it all alone after being abandoned." Nervous laughter rippled through the crowd. I felt hundreds of eyes on me, on my department store dress, on Noah's confused face. "But she's here!" Allison raised her glass. "And that's what family does. We show up for each other, even when life hasn't gone according to plan. Even when we've had to make difficult choices." The laughter was less nervous now. Someone whispered behind me. Noah's hand found mine under the table, squeezing tight. "To Evelyn," Allison finished, "for reminding us all how blessed we are." "To Evelyn," the room echoed, glasses raised in mock salute. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The room spun slightly. All those faces turned toward us like we were animals in a zoo. Then Donna stood, swaying slightly on her heels. The champagne had loosened her usual restraint. "Oh, Allison, how generous of you," she slurred into her own microphone. "Yes, let's toast Evelyn. At least she managed to squeeze into a dress. After 2 children, that's quite an accomplishment." "1 child," I said, but my voice was swallowed by the room's laughter. "1, 2, who can keep track?" Donna waved dismissively. "The point is, she's here, trying her best. That's what counts, isn't it? Effort? Even if some of us start the race a bit behind." Noah tugged on my sleeve. "Mom, why is everyone laughing?" The question broke something inside me. My beautiful boy, looking up at me with those trusting eyes, trying to understand why a room full of adults was treating his mother like a punchline. "We're leaving," I whispered, starting to stand. But Donna wasn't finished. "Oh, don't go, Evelyn. We're just having fun. You remember fun, don't you? Before you got yourself in trouble with that— what was his name? The one who left you high and dry?" "Stop." The word came out stronger than I felt. "Stop?" Donna laughed, the sound sharp as breaking glass. "Oh, honey, you should have thought about stopping 9 years ago before you embarrassed this entire family." The room had gone quiet now, watching the show. I stood, pulling Noah up with me, my legs shaking but my resolve firm. We would leave with whatever dignity I could salvage. "You know what?" I said, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. "You're right. I should have stopped. I should have stopped believing that family meant unconditional love. I should have stopped hoping you'd change. I should have stopped protecting Noah from the truth about who you really are." I looked at my son, then back at the room full of people who'd rather mock a single mother than question why she was single in the first place. But I didn't stop, I continued. I didn't stop working double shifts to pay for his school. I didn't stop reading him bedtime stories even when I could barely keep my eyes open. I didn't stop believing he deserved better than your conditional love and charity table placement. Noah stood taller beside me, his small hand firm in mine. So thank you for the reminder of why I left. And thank you for showing my son that sometimes the best family is the one you choose, not the one you're born into. I turned to go, but movement at the head table caught my eye. Lucas Whitmore was standing, his face pale, his hands clenched at his sides. Sit down, Lucas. His father's command cut through the silence like a whip, but Lucas didn't sit. He stood there, staring at me with an expression I couldn't read. Shock, recognition, something else entirely. The entire room held its breath. No, he said quietly, then louder. No. Lucas, honey. Allison reached for his arm, her perfect composure cracking. What are you doing? He shook her off, stepping away from the head table. I'm doing what I should have done the moment this farce began. His voice grew stronger with each word. I'm telling the truth. Son, Mrs. Whitmore's voice was ice. Think very carefully about what you're about to do. I have been thinking, Mother, for weeks, months. He loosened his tie like it was choking him. Do you know what this is? Any of you? This isn't a wedding. It's a business transaction dressed up in white lace. Two families joining fortunes, not hearts. Allison's face crumpled. Lucas, please. I'm sorry, Allison. You deserve better than this. Better than me. Better than a man who's standing at the altar thinking about... His eyes found mine again, and something electric passed between us. Thinking about what? Donna demanded, but her voice had lost its drunken confidence. Lucas laughed, but there was no humor in it. You want to know what's really shameful? It's not a woman raising her child alone. It's this. All of this. The pretense, the cruelty, the way you all just sat there laughing while you tore her apart. He walked toward our table, each step deliberate. The guests parted like water, too stunned to stop him. Evelyn, he said when he reached us, I need to tell you something. Lucas, we should go, I said, acutely aware of Noah watching everything with wide eyes. No more running, he said. No more lies. I know you. We've met before. My heart hammered against my ribs. The hospital, 2014. You were working the night shift in the ER. I was a resident, remember? That patient who coded, the little girl. We worked on her for 2 hours. You wouldn't give up. The memory hit me like a physical blow. Dark hair falling into green eyes. Gentle hands. A voice that kept me calm during the chaos. But that was before Noah. Before my world imploded. Before... You disappeared, he continued. One day you were there. The next you were gone. I looked for you, asked everyone. They said you'd taken leave, then that you'd transferred, but no one knew where. This is ridiculous, Donna interjected, pushing through the crowd. Lucas, you're confused. The stress of the wedding? I'm not confused. He turned on her with sudden fury. I'm finally seeing clearly. You knew, didn't you? All of you knew something. Knew what? I asked, though part of me was afraid of the answer. Lucas looked at Noah, and his face went white. He studied my son's features, the shape of his eyes, the curve of his jaw, details I'd tried not to see for 9 years. How old is he? His voice was barely a whisper. Lucas, don't! Mrs. Whitmore's command held a note of panic now. How old? He repeated, never taking his eyes off Noah. 9, I said, the word hanging in the air like a confession. Lucas staggered back a step. 9 years. 9 years ago you vanished. 9 years ago my mother suddenly insisted I needed to focus on my career. Sent me to that fellowship in Boston. 9 years ago. Stop this immediately! Donna shrieked, but it was too late. Lucas looked between Noah and me, understanding dawning in his eyes. He's mine, isn't he? The room erupted. Gasps, shouts, the crash of champagne glasses hitting the floor. But all I could hear was Noah's small voice. Mom, what does he mean? I knelt beside my son, hands on his shoulders. The truth I'd carried for so long, finally too heavy to bear. We need to talk, baby. But not here. Yes, here, Lucas said fiercely. No more secrets. No more lies. They stole this from us. From all of us. 9 years of his life. 9 years of... His voice broke. Security appeared, moving toward us at the Whitmore's signal. This was ending, badly and publicly, just as Donna had always feared. We're leaving, I announced, standing and taking Noah's hand. I'm coming with you, Lucas said. Lucas! Allison's wail followed us as we pushed through the crowd, but he didn't look back. Neither did I. My apartment had never felt smaller than it did with Lucas Whitmore standing in my living room. He looked around, taking in the water stain on the ceiling, the secondhand furniture, the life we'd built without him. Noah sat between us on the couch, still in his little suit, confusion written across his face. I don't understand, Noah said for the third time. Who are you? Lucas looked at me, asking permission I wasn't ready to give. But the truth was already unraveling, thread by thread. Tell me what you remember, I said instead. About that night at the hospital. Lucas ran his hands through his hair, messing up the perfect wedding styling. Everything. I remember everything. You were exhausted. You'd been on for 18 hours, but you stayed late to help with that trauma case. Afterward, we went to that all-night diner on King Street. The memories flooded back. Coffee that tasted like burnt water. Talking until sunrise about medicine and dreams and a future that seemed possible. The way he'd walked me to my car, kissed me like I was something precious. We spent 2 weeks together, he continued. The best 2 weeks of my residency. Then you were just gone, like you'd never existed. I was put on administrative leave, I said carefully, aware of Noah listening. They said I'd violated protocol with a patient, that I needed to take time to reassess my priorities. What patient? You never violated. He stopped, understanding dawning. My mother. She's on the hospital board. Was, I corrected. She stepped down right after I left. Conflict of interest, they said. Lucas stood abruptly, pacing the small space. The fellowship in Boston. She made it sound like such an opportunity. Said I'd be throwing away my career if I didn't go immediately. I wanted to wait, to find you first, but she insisted. He turned to face us. She knew. She knew you were pregnant. How? The word came out raw. Hospital records. She must have... He stopped, looking at Noah again. I made a decision. Noah, honey, can you go to your room for a few minutes? The adults need to talk. Is he really my dad? Noah asked, his voice small. I cupped his face in my hands. We'll talk about everything, I promise. Just give us a moment. After Noah left, the silence stretched between us. Lucas sank back onto the couch, head in his hands. Tell me everything, he said. Please. So I did. The positive test 3 weeks after he'd left for Boston. The meeting with Donna and the hospital administrators. The choice they gave me. Sign away my rights to contact him, accept a transfer to the night shift at a different hospital, and receive a small monthly stipend for Noah's care. Or face a formal investigation that would end my career and leave me with nothing. They said you knew, I whispered, that you'd agreed it was best for everyone, that your career couldn't handle the scandal of an illegitimate child with a nobody nurse. And you believed them? The accusation in his voice made me stand, anger finally overtaking shock. I was 27, pregnant, and alone. Your mother had documentation, emails supposedly from you, text messages saying you regretted our mistake. What was I supposed to think? Those were fake. They had to be fake. I know that now. I wrapped my arms around myself. But then, you were gone. No forwarding address, no phone number, and they were so convincing, so organized. They had answers for everything. Lucas pulled out his phone, scrolling through old messages with shaking fingers. Look at these. He showed me screen after screen of text to friends, emails to colleagues. I searched for you, for months. My mother said you'd moved away, started fresh, said it was what you wanted. She paid me, I said, the shame of it burning my throat. $500 a month, cash, delivered by courier. I told myself it was for Noah, that it didn't matter where it came from as long as he had what he needed. Blood money, Lucas said bitterly. Survival money, I corrected. Do you know how much childcare costs? Formula? Diapers? I worked 60-hour weeks and still barely made ends meet. So yes, I took their money. I took it, and I hated myself, and I hated you, and I did it anyway because my son needed to eat. The fight went out of him. Our son. No. The word came out harder than I intended. Noah is my son. I carried him, birthed him, raised him, stayed up with him through fevers and nightmares and homework struggles. You don't get to claim him just because you finally know he exists. That's not fair. Fair? I laughed, the sound brittle. Was it fair when your mother called me a gold digger? Was it fair when she had security escort me out of the hospital like a criminal? Was it fair when I had to explain to a 2-year-old why he didn't have a daddy like other kids? The truth came out in pieces over the next 3 days. Lucas hired a private investigator who uncovered what I'd always suspected but never been able to prove. The paper trail was damning. Forged documents, bribed hospital administrators, a carefully orchestrated campaign to erase me from Lucas's life. But the worst part was the file. Lucas brought it to my apartment on a rainy Thursday, his face gray with exhaustion and rage. My mother kept records, he said, placing a manila folder on my kitchen table like it might explode. Of everything. Inside were photos of me throughout my pregnancy, taken without my knowledge. Medical records that should have been confidential. Notes in Donna's precise handwriting. Week 12, still refusing termination. Increased pressure. Week 20, accepted transfer agreement. Continue monthly surveillance. Surveillance, I repeated numbly. There were photos of Noah, too. First day of kindergarten, his 7th birthday party at the park, playing Little League last spring, years of milestones documented by a stranger's camera. She knew everything, Lucas said, his voice hollow. Every school, every address, every... He stopped, pointing to a notation from 6 months ago. Boy showing strong resemblance to L. Consider intervention if E attempts contact. She was never going to let us find each other, I said. The wedding invitation, Lucas said suddenly. It wasn't her idea. Allison sent it behind her back. She wanted to reconcile, to have her sister there. Mother was furious, but couldn't uninvite you without explaining why. So she settled for humiliation instead. Lucas reached across the table, stopping just short of taking my hand. I'm going to make this right. You can't, I pulled back. There's no making this right, there's only moving forward. Then let me do that. Let me know him, please. I thought about Noah, who'd been full of questions I couldn't answer, who'd stood in front of the mirror that morning, studying his reflection for features that might match the stranger who'd claimed him. He's scared, I admitted. Confused. His whole life just imploded because I couldn't keep the truth buried anymore. I'm not asking to be his father overnight. I know I have to earn that. But Evelyn, his voice broke. I missed 9 years. Don't make me miss any more. Before I could respond, my phone rang. Unknown number. Don't answer that, Lucas said urgently. My mother's been calling reporters trying to spin this, but I'd already picked up. Miss Hartley? This is Patricia Chen from Channel 9 News. I'm calling about the Whitmore wedding incident. We've received some disturbing allegations about hospital corruption and falsified records. Would you care to comment? I looked at Lucas, then at the file spread across my table, years of lies documented in black and white. Yes, I heard myself say. I would. Lucas grabbed the phone. If you want this story, you'll do it right. Full investigation, not gossip. We have documentation. We? I mouthed at him. He nodded firmly. We. An hour later, we sat in my living room with Patricia Chen and her cameraman. Noah was at school. I'd insisted on maintaining his routine despite the chaos. Lucas had called his lawyer, who sat beside us with a stack of evidence. Start from the beginning, Patricia said, and I did. The story poured out. The young nurse and the resident. The unexpected pregnancy, the threats and bribes, the systematic destruction of a relationship to preserve family images and bloodlines. Why come forward now? Patricia asked. I thought about Noah's face at the wedding, the confusion and hurt in his eyes, about 9 years of lies and silence and shame that wasn't mine to carry. Because my son deserves the truth, I said. Because other women are probably out there, silenced by powerful families who think money can erase inconvenient realities. Because I'm tired of being the shameful secret when the real shame belongs to those who tore a family apart before it could even begin. And you, Mr. Whitmore? Patricia turned to Lucas. You walked out of your own wedding. What do you want people to know? Lucas looked directly at the camera. I want my mother to know that she failed. She tried to control love like it was a business merger, but love doesn't work that way. She stole 9 years from me, from Evelyn, from our son, but she didn't steal our future. You're saying you plan to be involved in the child's life? I'm saying, Lucas said carefully, that I plan to earn the right to be his father, whatever that takes, however long it takes. The interview aired that night. By morning, it had 3 million views. The morning show studio was blindingly bright, nothing like the gentle glow of the hospital corridors I was used to. Lucas sat beside me on the pale blue couch, both of us stiff in our camera-ready clothes. Across from us, Margaret Mills, America's most trusted morning show host, shuffled her notes with practiced ease. We're live in 30 seconds, a producer called out. My phone buzzed, a text from Maria, who was watching Noah. He's fine, eating cereal and doing homework. You've got this. The red light flashed on. Good morning, America, Margaret began, her voice warm but serious. Today we're discussing a story that's captivated the nation, a tale of love, lies, and the lengths some will go to protect family reputation. With me are Evelyn Hartley and Lucas Whitmore, the couple at the center of what's being called the Charleston cover-up. She turned to us. Evelyn, let's start with you. 9 years ago, you were a promising young nurse. Tell us what happened. I'd practiced this, but the words still felt surreal. I fell in love with someone I thought I had a future with. When I became pregnant, that future was stolen from us by people who decided their reputation mattered more than their grandson. Lucas, you've accused your mother, Donna Whitmore, of orchestrating this separation. She's denied these allegations. She can deny all she wants, Lucas said evenly. We have documentation, forged letters, bribed officials, 9 years of surveillance photos of my son that I've never met. Margaret leaned forward. Speaking of your son, how is he handling this? I thought of Noah's questions that morning. Do I have to call him Dad? Will we have to move? Are you still my mom if he's my father? He's processing, I said carefully. It's a lot for a 9-year-old to understand. Now, Donna Whitmore has agreed to join us via satellite, Margaret announced. Mrs. Whitmore, you're running for the hospital board of directors. What's your response to these allegations? The screen filled with Donna's face, perfectly made up but unable to hide the strain around her eyes. This is all a terrible misunderstanding, she began, her voice honeyed with false concern. I've only ever wanted what's best for my son. When Miss Hartley became pregnant, she made it clear she wanted financial support, not a relationship. That's a lie, I interrupted, my hands clenched in my lap. Let her finish, Margaret said gently, though her eyes showed she was skeptical too. Donna continued, I have emails from Ms. Hartley demanding money, threatening to ruin Lucas's career if we didn't pay. We did what any family would do. We protected our son from someone trying to take advantage. Show them, Lucas said flatly. Show these supposed emails. They're with my attorney. Because they don't exist, Lucas continued. Just like the emails from me saying I wanted nothing to do with my child don't exist. You fabricated everything. Lucas, honey, you're confused. The stress of discovering you have a child. Stop. His voice cut through her excuses. Stop calling me honey. Stop pretending you care. You knew. For 9 years, you knew I had a son, and you kept him from me. You watched me struggle with relationships, wondering why I couldn't commit, knowing I was comparing everyone to a woman you'd driven away. You watched me volunteer at children's hospitals, trying to fill a void I didn't even know existed. I did what was best. You did what was best for your image. Lucas stood, the microphone crackling. Do you know what my son's favorite color is? His favorite book? What he wants to be when he grows up? Because I don't. I don't know any of it because you decided your reputation was worth more than his right to have a father. The studio was silent. Even the camera operators seemed to hold their breath. Then Donna made her mistake. He's better off, she said, dropping her mask of concern. Look at how he's lived. A tiny apartment, public school, a mother who works nights. Is that the life you wanted for a Whitmore heir? I saved you both from a mistake that would have ruined everything we've built. There it is, Margaret said quietly. Mrs. Whitmore, are you saying you deliberately separated a father from his child because of socioeconomic differences? Donna's face went white as she realized what she'd admitted. That's not. I need to speak with my attorney. The screen went black. Margaret turned back to us. Lucas, Evelyn, what happens now? I looked at Lucas, then at the camera, thinking of all the women who might be watching, who might be living their own version of this story. Now we tell the truth, I said, all of it, and we try to build something from the wreckage. Together? Margaret asked. As parents, I clarified. Everything else, we'll see. The interview ended, but the impact was just beginning. By noon, #Charles Top cover-up was trending. Donna Whitmore had withdrawn from the hospital board race, and Noah asked if he could meet his father properly this time. 6 months later, I stood in my kitchen making Noah's favorite Saturday morning pancakes, the ones shaped like dinosaurs that required a special mold I'd found at a thrift store years ago. Through the window, I could see him in the small backyard, kicking a soccer ball with Lucas. They practiced every Saturday now. Not because any court mandated it, but because Noah had asked, tentatively, at first, then with growing enthusiasm. He's not very good at soccer, Noah had confided after their first session, but he tries really hard. That was Lucas in a nutshell, not very good at the sudden fatherhood thrust upon him, but trying with everything he had. My phone buzzed. Another reporter requesting an interview. I deleted it without reading. The story had dominated headlines for weeks, spawning investigations into hospital corruption and family court reform. 3 other women had come forward with similar stories of powerful families buying their silence. Donna Whitmore was facing criminal charges, but I was done being a headline. Mom! Noah burst through the back door, cheeks flushed with exertion. Did you see I made 5 goals? 6, Lucas corrected, following him in. That last one definitely counted. The ball has to go between the posts, Noah explained patiently, not around them. I hid my smile, flipping another pancake. Breakfast is ready. Wash up? Noah thundered toward the bathroom, leaving Lucas and me alone in the kitchen. These moments were still awkward, charged with history and hurt and something else I wasn't ready to name. He's getting good, Lucas said, leaning against the counter at a careful distance. Coach says he might make the travel team next year. We can't afford travel team. No. The word came out sharper than intended. We've talked about this. You're his father, not his ATM. Lucas nodded, respecting the boundary we'd established through months of careful negotiation and family therapy. He could be present, could build a relationship with Noah, but I wouldn't let him throw money at us like his mother had thrown it at problems. I know, he said quietly. I just want to help. You are helping. You show up. That's what he needs. Noah returned, hands still dripping, and dove into his pancakes with 9-year-old enthusiasm. Can we go to the Science Museum after? They have a new exhibit on dinosaurs. Sure, baby, I said, then caught Lucas's expression. What? Saturday is our day. I thought maybe we could all go, Noah said, through a mouthful of pancake. Together. He paused, searching for a word that wouldn't hurt anyone's feelings. Like a team. Lucas looked at me, asking permission I'd been slowly learning to give. Okay, I said. Like a team. The museum was crowded with weekend families. Noah dragged us from exhibit to exhibit, his excitement infectious. He rattled off dinosaur facts with the confidence of someone who'd memorized every book in the library's paleontology section, which he had. Did you know velociraptors were actually only the size of turkeys? He informed a group of younger kids. The movies got it all wrong. I watched Lucas watch our son, saw the wonder and regret warring on his face. He was storing up these moments like treasures, trying to make up for lost time without overwhelming Noah with his hunger for connection. He's incredible, Lucas said while Noah examined a fossil display. He is. You did that. You made him incredible. I shrugged. He came that way. I just tried not to mess it up. Evelyn, he turned to face me fully. I need to say something. Not about us, not about the future. Just thank you for letting me in, for not poisoning him against me, for being a better person than anyone had the right to expect. I didn't do it for you, I said honestly. I did it for him. He deserves to make his own decisions about who you are. And who am I? To him? I thought about it, watching Noah gesture animatedly at a reconstruction of a T-Rex skeleton. You're the guy who shows up on Saturdays, who can't make a goal to save his life, but celebrates every one of his, who reads the same dinosaur books he does so you can talk about them. I paused. You're earning it, slowly. That's enough? It's a start. Noah ran back to us, grabbing both our hands. Come on, there's a whole room about extinction events. As he pulled us forward, I caught our reflection in a display case. We didn't look like a traditional family, too much history and hurt for that. But we looked like something. 3 people figuring it out, one dinosaur fact at a time. That night, as I tucked Noah into bed, he asked, "Are you happy, Mom?" I thought about the question seriously. Yeah, baby, I am. Even without winning? I frowned. Winning what? The stuff with Dad's family. They're in trouble, but we're not rich or anything, and you and Dad aren't... He trailed off. I sat on the edge of his bed. You know what? We did win. Not money or revenge or some fairy tale ending. We won the truth. We won the right to make our own choices. And most importantly, I kissed his forehead. We won the chance to be a family. Whatever that looks like for us. I love you, Mom. Love you too, dinosaur expert. Later, I stood on my tiny front porch, holding a mug of tea and watching the stars. My phone lit up with a text from Lucas. Thank you for today, same time next Saturday. I typed back. Noah wants to try the park instead. Bring better shoes. I'll practice my goals, he responded, followed by a soccer ball emoji. I smiled, despite myself. No, we weren't a fairy tale. We weren't even a love story. Not anymore. Maybe not ever again. But we were something real and complicated and ours. In the distance, a church bell rang the hour. 9 o'clock, Noah's bedtime. The end of another day we'd never thought we'd have. I went inside, locking the door behind me. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges. It always did. But tonight, my son was safe and happy and whole. Everything else we could figure out as we went.